Uses life as a way to resolve students. Like you know, this is life hates for this is nature hates it. Or is it nature also hates a gradient? And it wants to make everything.
I've seen the art you put preamble and then panel. So you're like, I want to talk about this, but also I want to talk about this. Also this. Also one more thing, and also this other thing.
Molecules to form certain kinds of organizations. And those organizations inevitably become institutional organizations because the ones that remain and the you don't need DNA or like the range themselves. And then it's kind of like so it's possible that some of your cultures will be and then eventually you got RNA and then DNA and then collapse. So he's saying that any part of the universe that has conditions similar to what happened on Earth, it's inevitable, which is a bit more a better vision in science than the heat death of the entire universe in just couple seconds.
We never step out of the walkway directly onto. Like, hey, it's me. Hello.
That's actually the dream.
All right. Low budget, but effective.
Yeah.
Really just jumped out of here.
Shipping, and it's a supply chain, so it normally looks like everyone's. Right. Because it's a supply chain, that's what happens. There we go.
Hey. Hello. Check. Hello, everyone. Hello. Make some noise if you can hear me. My name is Brandon Wintz. I have the pleasure of working at Massy Arts as of, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. Oh, thank you. So kind. Wow. Poetry. You got a job. Yeah. How many of you are either like unfamiliar with or have never been to Massy Arts before? There's always some. Okay, just a few. Don't be shy. It's okay. Welcome to the space. Massy Art Society is an Indigenous-owned, Indigenous-led art space, generally prioritizing under or over-excluded artists, which generally means racialized artists, artists belonging to the queer community, artists who are experiencing multiple marginalizations. Massy is the place where these people, or our people, my people, we can convene and celebrate our beauty and our literary excellence, generally speaking. And so now that that's out of the way, I can also say that the event that you're about to partake in and participate in is funded by the government of Canada. Hooray! Yeah. We're on camera. I mean, hooray! Thank you. Yes, the government of Canada, also the province of BC, the BC Arts Council. So arts funding is good. Our relationship to government's tenuous at best, always. But arts funding, helps me pay rent, helps us pay rent, and so that's wonderful. With that out of the way, I will remind us all that we are currently situated on the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. What that means to us, varies person by person. But as for myself, and as a person who often has the honor and responsibility of standing here making land acknowledgements before poetry events, I think about like how it is we can elevate words like unceded land, words like decolonization, words like anti-colonial, how we can like elevate them beyond their like either symbolic or figurative realms, because like this country is like really, really good at like turning like real world things into like figurative language. Like, we'll make a poster, we'll give you a mural on this downtown building. Whereas, colonialism is not a metaphor, so therefore like anti-colonial, decolonial must be also brought to some sort of tangible justice-seeking lens. And so, justice is a collaboration. We're all in this room to iterate and collaborate on what justice means. Hopefully this event will be justice aligned in some way. And so I just put that all in our brains. We can mull it over together. I don't know. And so with that said, I will hand the microphone over in just a second. But I will also remind you, of course, all the books that you will see read from this evening are also for sale. We also have limited quantities of white wine and beer, limited quantities. So like buy more books than you buy beer. Like that's the general rule. That's how we stay in business, Other than that, you've all found the restroom, which is right behind me. There are some garbage cans over there. Other than that, we're just gonna have fun. The show will end around 7:50. The venue closes at like 8 o'clock. Don't make me use my stern voice. I don't want to have to invoke, my grade 3 teacher to get us all out of this space at 8. But other than that, let's have some fun. I will hand the mic over to Danielle.
So much. I'm Danielle, I'm your host for the evening. I like to think of the territory acknowledgement as really this, it's protocol, it's a reminder, and it's also a beginning. And it's also a form of disruption to disrupt the reliance on the legal fiction that the land could be owned by Canada or could be owned by anyone. We're here to engage with and listen to the works of David Bradford, Raven Halen, and Alluri. I wanted to make some kind of joke, but maybe I won't, about this lasting pit stop after the Burning Man of Writing, AWP, that a few of you were involved with. These works, I think that they curate variations on the ever variable interior experience of becoming done and undone, whether by way of intergenerational trauma, the loss of friends, the death of a rabbit. The byline to this event, called Caller ID, is to imagine how these works act as a voicemail to your future self, a self unknown to you at this moment in time and space. To return to that voicemail means you have in some way become archive, material for you to respond to touch, discern, throw away like any bad idea, ignore, something to judge, to know a little more, to know a little less. The writers tonight are going to be reading for about 20 minutes a piece. I told them to be generous with their time. Don't cut yourself short. And at the end of the reading, we'll have some time for Q&A. So I'm telling you this now, because when I tell you that we're doing Q&A at the end, I know sometimes that it can be hard to be on the spot or come up with some questions. So maybe through these readings, as you're paying attention to what the writers are talking about, maybe some questions will percolate for you. We're going to start with David Bradford. David Bradford is a poet and translator based in Teotihuacan. Bradford's collection, Dream of No One But Myself, has deservedly received much attention and acclaim. David was a finalist for the Griffin Poetry Prize, Governor General's Literary Award, and Gerard Lampert Memorial Award. I find this book, what it means, what's coming up for me when I read this book, what it means to enter one pot or container or carrying bag, a family history, only to spill forward into another. The work provides a never complete and impossible to complete history of, and I'm not going to rely on any concepts here because I don't want to turn this work into a thing. I don't want to force it into a thing. But really, for me, when I'm reading David's work, this particular book, it's bringing up a lot of meaning to understand things that happen to oneself as they also happen to others. So here's to David, and here's to sifting through the mess.
All right, he's doing his prep for Kathy Hernandez.
You know.
Reading.
Literally.
It's good to be here. Thanks to Brendan and Massy Art Society for the hospitality. Really means a lot. So I think this might be the last time I read from this for a while, at least long form, let's say. So we're gonna bring some of the fleshier stuff out. And I think I prepped something that's kind of quiet, but very intense. So, bear with me. I'll warn folks that there will be like some intense enough descriptions of abuse, including physical abuse. So, you know, take care of yourself in that regard. Both of them took to hiding from the rest of us in his office every Christmas Eve, celebrating the holidays with PBS. Her already always wheezing, the same what would kill him in a matter of decades. Me always sneaking in, just to feel I could, even feeling what was on its way again, boiling over every year. Why are you so angry? She'd start in. Like it was a given, there was no good answer he could offer. A deaf Dalmatian year. The remote clipping on deck. The happy draft left every other week past. Not knowing it wanted. Till feeling a way in open, just barely away. Granted around the leaves. Talking in pieces, a bottle laughing. A thin air, light still standing. Like me. One way to think of my father's mother is she made what we got. One, routinely lined up a cotton hot iron to heat the bedroom doorknob. Two, locking him on the other side when she needed a break. Three, the secured iron slowly rendering the knob unsafe. My father. Four, banging on the door as she walked out of the apartment. Or just beat him. Explore. Ashray, Louisiana. Not a poem, but a big house is a big house. Imagine I'm standing in one being told every brick that makes this one up was made on site by children. That said children did not look like me and kept the fire going around the clock. Imagine the tour guide announcing all this, dressed to look like the mistress of the house. Someone helps dress her in the morning, pile the whole thing on, button it up the back. Or there's well-placed Velcro when she does it on her own. Either way, imagine there's a sound just outside the window, a clinking like bricks, and she imagines children stacking them. And then every day she talks about the bricks. Every day she impresses it upon us that the walls are 3 bricks thick. Every day I'm out here, I'm wearing selvage denim, 4-wheel leather boots, cotton tops from unknown places. And every day since I stay impressed because here are the details. Here she is pointing her ruffled sleeve at the enslaver's will's list of properties, whatever you call such a thing. Here it says, 4-poster mahogany bed frame, $30. Here it says, D'Iberville, 34 years old, $1,200. Here everything was made by the enslaved. And so here everything made is worthless. Apart from the means to make them, here Miana, quote, mulatto seamstress, unquote. And her 2 boys and 3 girls were worth 2.5 times as much as the 15 cart horses, or 50-odd beds. The things remain, but people don't. I pout my way through the gift shop. I wish I knew what I ordered for lunch. I wonder how many folks around Bashery know about the name of their town. I assume there were cows down here. But for those of us who speak the language now, the first thing Bashery brings to mind is a gratuitously crappy thing, like a pile of shit out by the levee. It gives cows a bad name. Thank you.
I speak for everyone. We're here for your intensity. Alluri is the author of The Flayed City and chapbooks The Promise of Rest and Our Echo of Sudden Mercy. Writer, publisher of Paso Libong, and co-editor of We Were Not Alone, of community building artworks. Having collaborated with Hari on the Community Duck Care Project, which we organized out of the Carnegie Center, I'm so in awe of how he holds space by watching community members, perhaps to the point of drowning, with all kinds of invitations and portals for them to create and think. That reference to drowning is also a reference to our Echo of Sudden Mercy. What does it mean to be held by drowning, and what could be another word for joy when we get there? You've brought that word joy back into my life, so thank you for that, Hari.
Introductions from Danielle or Paul by themselves. David, if it's okay, I'm gonna just read back a couple of moments that stopped me in your reading. You know, as David probably could have predicted, what I was gonna read has been shifted over. Right? You gotta be attentive. And there's like this, a little bit of it will be like is the volume okay? And a little bit of it is just like affected by the I don't know, the transformational way you did this a little bit me just now, you know. But to begin, attention. And it's just chopped up, but I was no memory whose laughing has claimed in pieces a bottle, remote, clipping, boiling, slicking the dimples, everything to wade through. From our Echo of Sudden Mercy, which is arranged kind of like a like a 3-card card pull. I just saw like 2 of my oldest friends. So like, I'll just read like a little beginning from like each thing, and then I'll read through the last part. And then I'll jump to some kind of like newer-ish. Then I'm gonna go back in time to the Flame City because of what they've read. How do I feel about? How do you feel about this? Fine? Good. I'm gonna just like stand up, just not on the actual thing. Also because I do this when I'm reading and I move and I'll be like. Situation card and inversion of the gaze. I rub my eyes at the wake up song, reach across my journal to quell the alarm. And now my phone is in my hand and my dreams begin to fade. The online world floods in and I'm not ready and I keep scrolling. The easiest days begin when I've cleaned the stovetop espresso maker the night before. Not a thing I did today or yesterday. Most mornings the coffee grounds decorate the counter, spill, bother my bare feet. When I take too long to get up to my first smoke, I'm grumpy before I do. In another version of the story, my notebooks on the stove, the only things that burn. You never know when the fire will ask you to be its home. Anger because the coffee grounds, their desire to spread the haunch of me at them. Anger because I'm scared to say I'm drowning. Bless it. Say it. I'm drowning. Say it to mean drowning is a form of being held. Obstacle card. Foundations are being shaken. Beneath the earth is always runway. And here a little helplessness to hold like a newborn child. It's not only the child who's helpless, it's the holder. Please don't appropriate this error into the good small moments of your day. We need more betrayal if we want to keep forgiving. Not if you believe that language is a spell. Blessed are those who ghosts and demons flock towards. And every time, ingat, my loves, ingat. Just gonna give it a second. Come in. In a city version of that story, the rooftops know it's not the kites that fight, but the shattered glass that children rub into our strings beneath. The way we hold them tethered to ourselves, the part of us that cuts. This is what I thought the word ganja meant. I didn't think of river. We have always been the consequence of stories. Response card, when all seems too much. In another version of the story, I'm a jungle and migration is the undergrowth of me. I say mobilize and it becomes a kind of prayer. What I don't know about what will happen next could fill the amphitheater of every valley my feet have touched with a symphony of instruments I never learned to play. The homie from a region I am almost from, his favorite songs offer incompletion. They leave space for him to be with his longing. I say belong and I tell you I am afraid community is impossible. I put on a ritual mask and speak into the mirror. I say mask and I mean to unmask my demons. I think if I wanted something for this now, it would be a form of radical trust I fear I can't afford. And yet we sit in circle with each other via all these screens, write something old new into the world and share it like we trust. We search and every moment we don't find is a moment of us searching, widening the reach of the one we search for, the way he'd stick his arm out to make room for a hug. And this is actually a quote from someone who's sitting in the back over here. Know that we did everything we could, and if asked to find the strength to do more, we would. Already the previous story has visited me twice since. It means I am one of those lucky ones that hasn't made it home. And another quote, When we cut through all else, sometimes all we're left with is wonder. I think this might be history's baseline, a myco-ether, the forest fires that were from teeming now as jungle. May the plant who needs the canopy's shade find a branch above. May the one who stretches up find itself a clearing. May you and the deity of what's lost be less overworked. In another version, I kapwa to so many mothers' griefs and my mother's as well. I iron her blouses while I whisper names, and she tells me her stories. There is yet another we who you could recognize by the precipice in a glinting shake that never leaves our jaws. I say relinquish. The deity of lost things is taking this English. When I say nourish with a flourish, I mean the dream, the circles of us, bahalana, kapwa. The stories of those we love, they never tell with their mouths. Listen, the ones that find us when needing their stories, find us by way of other mouths after their hands have left. Echo, all those times you pull the record back to let it go, something happens to the molecules in the air and in my body. There are waters who will not approach for anything less than song. I have to tell myself this story now, as if I trust the version of me in it will find a way to be. There's tears in our eyes just to say hello. How beautiful the etchings of the world are on our bones, on our work-torn muscles and the creases beside our eyes. The languages they hide, incomplete, tell you only this. We have unwalled this whole city with the joy of our ghosts, burning down the kingdom where our suffering was the sun. So during my trip to AWP, like
Way too enthusiastic.
right? The most beautiful part was visiting the gravesite of Carlos Bulosan, who was like a migrant worker, community organizer, and writer. And like a bunch of communities came together to like fundraise, so we would have like a marked grave, you know, that includes some language from him, and one of the like local like community elders, you know, brought us there and taught the story in the space, and like folks made little offerings and like everybody read a little bit. And I read this piece that like, I guess just, yeah, whatever. I'll just tell you, I was like one day away from cutting from the book. And like I knew I had to read something for Tala, you know, and I knew I was going to read that, but as I was looking at that one and just like the manuscript that's on the phone, like the title of this one like jumped on me 3 times, and I was like, nah, I don't want to read that. But it was some Carlos Bulosan shit, so you don't fuck around with that dude. Some people can whoop my ass from beyond the grave. To hum its dizziness like sugar and tea. A photograph carrying its own skeleton along death's emulsifying road. This blooming problem. Sky makes a face as if impatient with our dust. And this, some gods don't believe the displaced deserve more gods, or rest, or shelter. If a pipeline attempts with human help to cross the stolen land, whose promises are swept from roaming true. If any, I tell you, gods have demons or no one else would too. If any divine pauses the first remittance. Without knowing her name, every day at least one deity attempts to pass off a chunk of their job to the goddess of lost things. I made that up, called it Anagolai Tula, because I needed to. A passport and failure's addiction, amen. I thumb its pages, settle when told by the official stance, if you do what I say, into the brunt of this small dedication missing from those pages. Splinter that promise and accept the twinkled fumbling of our own pockets for signs of ourselves, of the watered earth, the earth who asks for a goddess of what's not. We enact in love. Can I say that? May Anagolai not be mistaken for turning everything Shah keeps into a single chant. That rising melt of sound, a kind of medicine that reaches into other rooms. It carries remembrance, which carries work, which carries attend, which carries the take, the care needed for what come back must carry. Leafing through those photos she developed, which we never took, Anagolai sips a kind of tea and sweet. It's easy to imagine she must have many hands. The city's ragged hip bone, far from downtown, wears out the hinges. There are Ferris wheels and roller coasters and horizontal cyclists circling wells, homegrown and imported at the same time. And nowadays there are those who chop the tops off mountains or turn some earth the color of night without its beauty, the engine of our light. A begging, animal of an almost god. Please sit for me and dance inside your sitting. I too would love to coil my tail and carry up a king. Land and rivers, bathe while that king sputters in silence. I would rather you than a god who sings bloodlines into law. Please refuse to sing that song. Sing our song instead, this song. Its insolence forgives you for forgiving. I only want to grant you the broom touch in my voice. And then as a kind of like, as a kind of heads up, I'm going to read this and then like one last piece, and the last piece is a litany. And it goes on for like 7.5 years. Sorry, River. I have no respect at all for anything.
Like I renew my parking.
Yeah, renew your parking. Turn your phones back on. No language can ever be enough, I say. Only the dirt will wash us clean. The way it must sound, and I cling to the languages, the dirt I've lost, with this one that clings to me. Chorus for broom. Perhaps you are a palm frond, fingertips dried brown. Other times a branch sandpapered of knots, and corn husk or underbrush, nowadays plastic, always the binding like city tonight, reciting in gestures the inner edge of us. Sometimes a one-armed backhand sweep or the wider push, more often bent, shoulders low down as hips for the daily ritual. The rake pull at corners, the piling, basic addition, bird feather, insect wing, sap on sidewalk, leaves on sap, those slowly digging leaves. Elbow grease now. A new year to smoothen, another move, a flower vases spring into wilt, temples empty of worship, mezzanines, foyers for what gets hoisted at a restaurant breakup. For the 10th breakup with one person, burn sage, fuck that, get out the bleach. From gas station checklist to house guests and shoes, doormat prosody, spling, splan, splinny of wine glasses off tables, discarded leather from a cobbler's vice strip, for balance lost, spilling the eggs, the rice, the buttered crust, perhaps just for leaning on, watching the rise of particles in sun, for standing you almost on your own like Turbo in that breakdance flick, moonwalking in place like this, the failed attempt at epic baking all over the kitchen, Walcott's promise, his fragments of clay to nuzzle when the war arrives, while it's here. The cobwebs on fan, the pennies before payday, the autumn from under a couch, the unsmoked roach, the burned down intention, to dispel an antline, to lightsaber a friend, to tinikling, to spin as nightclub romances left on the vinyl. Crossroad market before, swap meet after, movie theater row by row, gratitude in hair, a dead thing absorbing oil to shine after the scissors, fingernail clippers that jump at the doorbell, guilt's silhouette refusing to speak softly, frayed tissues crumpled with fever. The ushering of ghosts, the hallway childhood, the office towers lights non-office shift, the hotel the hopeful third date and its band-aids persistence, glass shards hiding to catch a foot. The neighbor's nightly cry, ticker tape parade, the melee, the Ramadan mat, the colors of holy thinning the distance from us to ground. The day before the family funeral prep, the mass cremation, the headstone, the body's last shade. Whispers lapping like bills at the threshold. Ganesha, Eshu, for Hermes, that thief covering his tracks, accused, witches, last line of defense, mouth brazen, decisions that swarm heaven with new immigrants. This faulty lip of a dustpan, freedom. We ache for it to meet your bristled up urge naked, the now of a god's eyelashes at the floor. Cover yourself in our hands, be angel but not fully. Grasp us each like a burning and wave our descent.
I couldn't make it disappear. The blank begins shortly after my grandmother and her parents baked some money into loaves of bread and dressed up as peasants and fled their home in Barcelona for the mountains. They did this in an effort to hide from both sides. The fascists were opposed to their acidity and the Catalan socialist resistance to their bourgeois status, which abandonment of property did not by itself immediately remedy or conceal. There's a story that may or may not be true about them slicing up their palms with knives to appear as though they'd been doing hard labor. In that part of the country at that moment, my grandmother asserted once memorably, because she almost never spoke about the political situation of her past, you could be killed for having smooth hands. But the cuts, if they existed, were not convincing. My grandmother and her family were recognized as the kind of people who might have money in their loaves, and the loaves were taken. I think about the impression they must have made, a family of dispossessed rich people trying to get work on farms and blend in with the other laborers and thinking the key to it all was having scabby hands. Imagine the first time someone asked them to do a task, like milking cows or turning compost. There's an angle from which this story of my family's trauma is very funny. My grandmother was at an age where she probably hated her parents. In this case, so did everyone else. They fled from farm to farm, lying and being discovered, until eventually, for a sustained interval, they disappeared. I'm going to stop there. It goes on. I looked for the exit, found a sleeve. During the time when everything was going haywire with us, when you were spending days at the hospital with your ex because her mom was dying suddenly of leukemia after going to the doctor with a cold, when you were starting a new job that did not love you because you needed the money because of a mix-up that after everything you owed someone a certain idea of hard embodied work, and you were moving apartments because the man upstairs would not stop pacing the entire night, and One morning before you left, a creative energy ran down your arm and punched your wall and hurt your hand in front of the wall and knocked on my door pretty hard after. So we could go to the grocery store to get bergamot oil for your ex's mom's forehead, your ex's forehead, your forehead. With your thumb at the checkout, you put some roughly on my forehead and tell me what you'd done in your still wild mood. And did you make a hole in it? I assumed you had. I was picturing the plasterboard fracturing around your slender, sexually capable wrist, and I panicked. You punched your wall, I said. We were passing through a portal of possibility, though you hadn't made a hole, you clarified. Some weeks later, a small dent. You hurt your hand and thought some shit was going on with me too. You're going through some shit, you said at several points on different days, which struck me as manipulative, maybe. But it's only you, love, I said each time indignantly. You're everyone to me, but I did not say love or explain about the everyone, all those others you umbrellaed. And we argued in a stairwell, each holding an end of a giant roll of paper you'd been making art with. Your friend, a dancer, would throw himself against the paper till it tore completely to shreds at the climax of his piece, then play dead like he meant it. People watching would cry. A member of the audience would help him up and play dead too. That was part of it. And for the next show, you would unroll him some more. The roll of paper was 1.5 times the length of the cab. We took it back to your place in tense and quiet. And there was a giant screen outside the venue. I want to say 40, but possibly as little as 10 feet high, displaying a picture of your friend, his naked chest, because something about self-destruction that could be a death spasm or just emotional frustration interests people, that confusion, to the extent that we want to see it magnified. In the haywire time, my attention was called to small things, for example, the moths that had been eating my clothes for 2 years, to the point that I did not have much to wear except polyester blends, which are very ancient bugs and plants and larger animals subjected to unimaginable pressure than woven. It doesn't breathe. I was often sweaty, and it makes sense that at a time like this, you would want to focus on something you can control, said the therapist. I paid for 3 sessions, then abandoned, because she could not have been more wrong. The moths were like nighttime, forest, sickness, the afterlife weather, as big and intricately orchestral and overwhelming force as I had known. I could tantrum or not, it didn't seem to really hurt them. I could use chemicals against us both. Are you my real dad? Yeah, I think so. Delicate, masculine, invincible, with a lot of tiny wings. In life, there is what you desire, then your impulse. Then there's what you really desire, and it's all connected. I wanted to stop losing things, all those scarves and socks my grandmother, the gorgeous transmasculine looking one, mom's mom, I've always identified with despite her stated homophobia, whose stoic quiet drives me to say words, words, words in circles until I've completely surrounded the truth that knitted for me. I wanted there to be a speed limit. The rate at which the moths were eating the life's work of my grandmother was enough. I felt a nudity gaining on me. Between two people, nudity can be a measure of closeness, can be a symbol for honesty. Well, Momo, that's what I call her, the word in her language for who she is to me. Are you really trans? I imagine myself asking never, or are you more like everyone, a hole in the language I circle? Her life's work was returning me monthly, weekly to my literal closet, to seek the parts getting eaten full of apertures through time, which appeared to be accelerating straight past the ancient question, do I keep my inheritance or let myself be seen? Gonna stop there. And out of respect for everyone's parking tickets, I'm gonna just read one short thing. If I can find it. This is called Speech. Annie Edson Taylor was 63 years old when she became the first person to survive Niagara Falls in a barrel. And I was 6 in the carpeted section of the basement, humping a large brown corduroy pillow the length of my torso. It was 1901. Annie had a mattress inside as cushion. I could not crawl inside my pillow, so for safety wound a skipping rope around it and my body, arms tucked neatly in, yanking the end with my teeth to get it tight. This was important. The river moved swiftly to the edge of my experience, and I went over and over, understanding perfectly pleasure and deadly risk. The falls, how people had died and people kept attempting. I had probably seen a documentary. People speak of becoming famous as a process that begins when you're discovered. Annie was discovered at the bottom of the falls. I was not. The barrel was Annie's retirement plan. She thought it would protect her from poverty, And it is true, when she was in the barrel, she was not in poverty. She was inside her lived experience. Later, Annie said she would rather steer straight into a cannon about to blow than go over the falls that way again. But it's impossible to know if she really meant it, or if she was just saying what you have to say when you've been discovered. What power wants to hear. What power wants to hear is a barrel holds a secret life in a strong current. Off a cliff, you die at the end. Dying sucked. You sure won't try that again. What power wants to hear is a barrel holds a secret life in a strong current. Oh no, not the end again. That sucks. Try saying it a few more times with feeling. Power likes repetition. Slow repeated motion is the surest way to push her over the edge. Meanwhile, I keep discovering myself, then talking. I have to say what I want to hear when I'm found. I'm becoming more and more well known.
Tonight. I think what I want to do is just have people maybe stretch a little bit. If you need to do eliminate some things to your right. We've got maybe another like 20 minutes. So why don't we reconvene in about 5 minutes? I'll ask us to maybe move our chairs around and we'll go from there.
Sure.
Was these nice residences?
Yeah. We'll see.
I forwarded his chat. That's great. Your work is so strong. So good. Love. Yeah. So did you have that day? I did, yeah. I have another Tuesday tomorrow. Yeah, like I'm okay. But if I go like this, or if I lie down, get up in the night and like, oh, I feel like, yeah, so, but I want to, well, basically, and then we'll get you, and I'm going back to the good person again. Okay. Hopefully sometimes it's yeah. I really no, but obviously, like, I have other stuff. Exactly. So, but no, okay. I had other things, my eyes were dilated for time. So that was